Welcome to Developing Your Inner Sensitivity, Ascension 101. I'm Luminessa and I would like to share with you a few new topics today. This is actually class 4. And before we get started again, I'd love for you to just join me for a quick meditation so that we can unify with each other. So I invite you to put down whatever you're holding right now. Of course, if you're driving, please pay attention to what you're doing. If not, feel your feet on the floor and just sit up straight and relaxed, and close your eyes with me if you choose. It's easier if we close our eyes because we kind of want to go inside for now. And I'm going to put on my clock there. So once again, closing our eyes, let's just take a deep breath in of relaxation, breathing in and breathing out. And I invite you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth because it's a relaxing breath. Breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. And after you breathe in one more time, we're going to breathe in a peaceful sense of just relaxation. Breathing in. And breathing out stress, letting go of the day, wherever you are. And I allow ourselves now to just connect and to feel our body, become aware of your environment, and just let go of the noises and the sounds around you and allow yourself to know that whatever you need to hear today, you will hear and integrate with ease and effortlessness. And go about your day, whatever time of day it might be, in perfect right action and order. And I know right now that we are unifying together in the divine presence of the divine intelligence of all that is, and that we express through and in and as that, and become more awake and more conscious to our true natures. And with that, I invite you to take a deep breath in. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And so today I want to talk a little bit more. Some of these topics are very in-depth, and I'm giving a very surface, a very more beginner level explanation for a few things, because most of what I'm sharing with you today could take a 2-hour class by itself. And since I'm doing it in shorter videos, I'm going to give it little sound bites of some of these things, and we'll see what we come up with as we move along. So understanding, one of the things I feel, because we're living in such a transformative world right now, and there's so much of the old world dissolving and collapsing. And for some people, this still may be quite frightening. And some of these classes, I hope, will help you to feel a little bit more able to deal with the outer world as you begin to work on the inner world. Begin to find more about who you really are, rather than always being distracted by the outer world. We come inside and we learn how to really settle in here, and you find a still point within yourself. And that still point, once you get really good at noticing it and really good at being able to tap into it, it really can help you to quiet down and relax inside. And when I feel relaxed inside, I feel a sense of peace. I let go. I let go of anxiety. I let go of fear. I let go of all the emotions that may not even be mine. You may even be picking up when you go outside, because everything is a vibration. You can go anywhere. And the more sensitive you become to energy, the more you might feel affected by other people's energy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I think it's really important for so many people. You may have heard the word starseed. It's certainly on YouTube enough. And what that means is that many people may not even know they're starseeds yet. And a starseed is usually someone who was born somewhere, often within the millennium, like from the 2000s up. But I would say even prior to that, there are many starseeds who have come in. And when you remember, it's more like you remember that you are part of a galactic, I would say community, but it's really a galactic world that we live in, that what we do here on this particular planet is not the only, it's not the only place we've ever been. In other words, in other timelines, other frequencies, we're multidimensional. We might have memories of being in other places and other times. So galactic, meaning a galactic family, greater than just on planet Earth. And I've had my own personal experiences of this, because I speak from experience, but it's my experience. And I highly recommend that if you feel that you are a starseed, and that word, you go, what is that? I'm happy to give you some references of some wonderful people on YouTube who are starseeds and teach wonderful programs on how to help starseeds find their purpose and mission. This class is to help anyone to just get a sense more of what it means to become more awakened and how to use some tools in self-growth and awareness. And so I want to talk more about, when we talk about our levels of consciousness, and also what it means to be of Christ consciousness. You know, we hear the word Christ, but that is not the name of a man. And unfortunately, thousands of years ago, the teachings, the true teachings of Yeshua were diluted and sort of hijacked. And much of what he truly taught was later recalibrated, or especially in the New Testament that came out, especially with following the teachings of Paul. Now, I am not someone who's a scholar about any of this, but I do know that much of what that was really wasn't the true teachings of Yeshua, who taught love on all levels and how to emulate love, kindness, compassion. So Christ consciousness is what we're talking about here. We're talking about someone, and there are many others, who have learned to embody a level of awareness and consciousness attuned to the greater consciousness of life, the unified field. Some people call that God. Some people call that the law of one. I mean, they call it that, like the great law. The Divine Mother, the Divine Father. We use many words. It's not about religion. It's more of a state of being and a state of awareness that we're talking about. And Yeshua was a man of his time. He was a revolutionary. So he brought in a new state of consciousness. He was actually someone, if you might want to say, who came in knowing his purpose and mission, and became, maybe he was quite enlightened as a young man. And I won't go too much into all of that, because I'm just now really learning more about him and the Essene teachings and working with the principles that were taught. That's just my focus for now. But I skip around quite a bit and move from different teachings depending on what I feel guided to do. So in this class, Christ consciousness is what we're talking about. How do we develop the ability of that awareness? And Christ consciousness means that we actually learn to embody certain principles of life. One of them is love, agape, or divine love. Another one is compassion, kindness, a place within ourselves that maybe when we also feel a sense of divine clarity. There's a list of essential qualities that we wish to embody: divine knowing, certainty. These are qualities. Peace, divine joy. These are qualities. These are ways in which we want to cultivate these aspects of ourselves. This brings in Christ consciousness. Now, there are so many different levels of understanding who we really are. So in this class, basically, we're talking about the levels of consciousness. And I was taught through a specific method and teachings of what we call the Ascended Master teachings. And I might have mentioned it in my earlier video, my very first one, that I studied for many years. And this organization was a non-denominational organization or church that taught the teachings of both Babaji and Yeshua and the Ascended Masters. And we learned many different things on how to be a modern day mystic. And some of the principles we learned were the different levels of awareness that we have as individual beings. So I'm going to use my book here for a moment, just so I get them clear and I'm able to give you the information in a certain chronological way. So we start with our physical identity. And we know this outer self comes across as our ego often. Usually we identify and we think that all we are is this physical self. Or you know how some people will say, I'm a doctor. They'll say, who are you? And, people say, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a teacher, I'm a lawyer, I'm a housewife. Well, every time we say the words I am, we are identifying with something. So I'm referring to shifting that perception by saying, rather than answering questions like that, I always say, not what I am, but I say what I do. I would say that I practice being a lawyer. Who I am is much more than any role that I play. You might have many, many roles in your life, but you are not those roles. They are just roles that we play in the world. And who we are is far greater than that. Who we are is far vaster than that. And that is what I'm here to communicate with you about more today. So we have the physical identity, the physical body, and often our gender, whatever that might be. Then we have the outer mental body. What does that mean? That means that it's the thoughts we think. So the outer mental body, I will read, is the conscious mind. And this is the outer astral body we might have. So there are different levels, again, of who we are. They're not visible to this eye, but as we become more sensitive to our true nature, more aware of metaphysical principles and of the quantum aspects of ourselves, and the multidimensionality of ourselves, begin to understand this better. Then we become, we are more of the feeling body, and that is also called the facade body. So the feeling body, again, is our emotional body. And often it's our subconscious as well. It's the things that you're not aware of. It's, that 99.9% of what we say or do is from the subconscious. So when we begin to understand that, we begin to change begin to change our habits and the way we be, and then our subconscious changes as well. We begin to give ourselves new patterns, new thoughts. We rewire the neural pathways of our brain, and there are ways to do that. Then we move what we call through what's called the psychic barrier. And that would be mostly that we're moving beyond just the physical, mental, and emotional cells and the feeling. We're going now up to the next level of our true self. And that is what we call the etheric self, the soul. In this context, you can say it's the soul or an aspect of the soul. I call the etheric self also the energy body. An individualized soul or etheric self, which is perfect, flawless, the real person. I also consider our etheric self aspects of our energetic body. So we might be working, if we are practicing yoga or doing different studies with the yogic tradition, we're learning all about the nadis. We're learning also about the chakra system. This is part of our etheric and our energy body as we move along. We are an energy body. We're an etheric body. And now we move from there into the Christ conscious self. From the etheric and the energy body, we're moving up again in our levels of identity. And the Christ self on one level is that we might have a variety of different aspects that we call Christ selves. And again, this is learning who we are on a more expanded sense of our true identity. What we will learn later on is how to connect with some of these aspects. And sometimes we call them guides, but I will say we want to be very clear about who we work with. And so we learn whether they come from the Christ conscious level or above. So we have Christ teachers, we have Christ teachers that we will work with specifically, and we will learn how to do that later. But that's an aspect of our true nature. Now, the next thing is that we have what we call an individual I am self. And that individual I am self expresses itself in its totality as you in that level of awareness or consciousness as what we call the I am, or it is also a Christ conscious being of you, but it's the next level up. It is the I am self for me is like our real God nature. It's the self that really knows who it is in relationship to the universe. It would be the self that might be more as we progress, that's in unification with all of life. And when I access my I am presence, and in this time right now, we know that with all of the solar flares and the very intense frequencies coming from the sun, new codes of energy are being downloaded to those of us who are ready to receive them. And as I've received them, I have become more and more lifted into my conscious Christ self and my I am presence, who I have been working with for well over 40 years. So it's not so much separate from me anymore. It's more integrated energetically on a vibrational level. So that's what we talk about. There is that I am presence. And then we also have the universal I am self. And that is an individualizing as a particular I am of the God self. So let me reframe a little bit. So there's the Christ self as different levels of that consciousness. Then there's the individual I am, also known as a Christ self, that may be your aspect of your individuality. And then there is the individual I am, which is the next level in consciousness. So I have to retract because this is a teaching that I studied with, and I'm just kind of going over it again as I read this to you so that we're clear that there are many levels to who we are. Now, why is this important? And I'll tell you why. And the reason that I just want you to know about it is because as we move along in some of these classes, I'm probably going to share how we can connect on a more conscious level for ourselves with these different aspects of who we are. And to learn to do that, it's just you first have to know about what it is. So that's why I'm bringing that up. The next thing I wanted to share is that when we're talking about individual aspects of who we are, remember, we are multidimensional beings. Starseeds or people who come into this planet, myself included, I am a starseed. But I was born in the 50s. And I came here to really help anchor a certain level of consciousness. And I've done my whole life, I've been dedicated to self-growth and self-awareness. So for me, that's been my mission, I think, to do that. And now I'm stepping into a new mission, a new life purpose. And when I teach these things, it's because I've experienced them and I've worked with them. And what happened is the more I understand the different levels of who I am, I then learn how to work with those different aspects of myself on a more ordinary daily basis. And we learn how to be, when we're in the world, we're being objective, we're in our physical body, we make decisions with our mind. But when we don't need to make decisions, when we are, and I would say decision, when we don't need to be in logistics or planning, we can learn how to drop more into our inner guidance system. And these aspects, these identities are part of that inner guidance system. And we will learn how to connect with that, how to identify and know whether you're connecting with a Christ conscious aspect of yourself or an I am aspect of yourself. It's a level of identity of you. And you will learn how to do that for you so that you don't have to go outside of yourself to get information. You can get it from your inner self. And that's the point of this, to learn how to have self-authority, how to be empowered from within, and how to learn discernment, especially now. There's so many people that say one thing or say another thing, and it may be very confusing to those of you who don't know what they're talking about. So I would say never just say yes to someone just because they have a degree or because they wrote a book or because they're famous. Always question, does that feel right? Develop that inner sensing. And this is when we become more connected to those inner aspects of ourselves, you will get that sense even more dramatically in your own physical body. You'll feel it through some sensing way. It could be a feeling, or you might open up clairvoyance, or you might have some sort of physical motion that allows that to happen, or you might just be like, for me, I have many different ways to sense, but one of the ways is I just feel it inside. I get a yes or a no. I've cultivated it for many years. So you will learn these things as well. And this is what's important now, to learn how to understand who you really are, learn a little bit more esoteric knowledge, because it's helpful to understand why you're the Christ self, or why you're the I am, or what that all means, and then how to use that in the world. Again, this is practical spirituality. So that's what I would share with you about that today. When you go out in the world, you're objective, you are doing your thing, but what we want to learn to do by understanding this material, and then by learning how to connect with these aspects of selves, is learning how to live more from our first brain, which is our heart. Our second brain is our gut. And our third brain is our brain. So we rely more on developing this sensing ability. How does your heart feel about someone or something? How does your gut feel? And then our brains are great tools. They can do all kinds of amazing things. We don't even use more than 10% of our brain. So when we use more total brain, we become superhuman. But for now, we use our brain to make, we can make decisions about some logistical things or planning things. But when you have to make a decision where you really need to know about a big move in your life, or a big decision that affects you in a much more impactful way, I always turn to inner guidance. I connect with my I am presence. I talk with my inner self. I get guidance through my divine nature. And that's what we are going to teach you how to do as well. So that's all I'm going to say for today. I'm going to keep it a little short, but we will continue on understanding more of how we use these aspects and how we connect with them in further classes. And until we do get an opportunity to do that and meet with you again, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.